recording. Hello, welcome everybody. My name's Sarah. If you have questions, you can put them in the chat. You can, unmute yourself and speak up. We do have some other Cengage people joining us today, or Nat Geo people, Brock O'Shell and Lori Evans. If you see their names and wonder who they are with us. So they're still kind of learning some of our platforms. I know Jerry Gooley, I don't see him on, but I think he said he was going to join for at least part of this. And let me just check. Yep, nobody's waiting. So I've worked with Exploring Science a lot in MindTap. And, Jerry kind of filled me in. You guys were kind of using the previous version. We've moved to the MindTap platform. The good news I'm going to tell you guys is MindTap has so much more to offer. Jerry sent me a list of questions you guys have in advance. I'm going to make sure to cover all of those, such as how do you assign things to students? I see some of us are using Google Classroom, so things like that. But if there's anything I don't answer or respond to, please, share it with me. We're all kind of, working through this together. So I'm going to share my screen. And I do understand that we have all grade level teachers on. So just know that if I show one grade level, so for example, I'm going to start with 3rd grade just because it's kind of in the middle of the road, and you're a kindergarten teacher, don't worry, the platform looks the same. Whatever grade you're in as a teacher, the platform is going to look exactly the same. So when I come in here, I'm in my teacher trial account. I'm going to start with 3rd grade. So I'm going to click launch course. And just to give you guys kind of an overview of how MindTap is laid out, when you first log in as a teacher, you're in the teacher view. So that means you're going to see all of the teacher resources. The teacher's edition is what's on the left-hand side here, as well as this little menu bar at the top, which is going to be your best friend, because this is where you can assign things to students, which we're going to go into. This is where your grade book is located. So as students are completing assessments through the platform, you're going to get that feedback in your grade book. You can group your students. If you want to assign different things to different groups, you can group them. You're going to get reports on how long students are spending in different parts of the program in the platform. You have a study hub tool, which is really more for the students. So I'm going to talk about that on the student side. It really collects the students' notes and highlights that they're putting in the student book. You have a course customization option. This allows you to put your own websites or, things that you want to add into the platform. You can customize the course by using that button. And then one that I really think you guys will use a lot is this Launch Student Edition. That's actually where we're going to start today. I'm going to launch that in 1 second. But I also want to point out this support link. If you click into support, it's going to open a new tab. And just so you guys know, this really walks through, especially this additional support resources link. And when I send out my follow-up, I'll make sure to send all of these links that you need. But this additional support resources, which I'll put in the chat right now, this is really helpful because it has all of these like short videos walking you through doing things. So like our Google Classroom integration that's built into the platform, here's a short video walking you through it. We're going to go through these pieces today, but I want to make sure you guys see where that's located. So I am going to pop this into the chat so that if you need it, if you want to bookmark it, I'm going to put it right in there right now. Okay, so I'm going to pop back into my MindTap. And if I say MindTap and you're like, I don't know what that is, that's just the platform that we're in now. That's the platform that Exploring Science is on. So like I mentioned, I'm going to actually start on the student side because what I think is you're going to spend a lot of time with your students in the student edition. So whether you have your kids in person or virtually or you're hybrid, the student edition is where you're going to be really delivering a lot of the instruction. So I'm going to click Launch Student Edition. Again, it's in my little menu bar, about 3/4 down the page there, Launch Student Edition. And this is what your students will see. Now, Your 3rd through 5th grade students are going to see this layout. Your K1 and 2 students are going to see a little bit of a different layout. It's a little bit more primary friendly. There are some more colors and bigger buttons. So I'll show you guys one of those grade levels after we walk through some 3rd grade. But your students will log in. They're going to see on the left-hand side kind of quick little links to jump into different units. So there's always a welcome unit. Again, if you know the program, we feature National Geographic explorers. This is Andres Russo right here. He's phenomenal. I've met him in person. He studies the boiling river in the Amazon. So he's going to kind of welcome your students to 3rd grade. Then you have this nature of science unit, really just kind of prepping them. Then you always have physical, life, and earth. You'll always have those strands and then more to explore. So no matter what grade you're in, it's going to follow that same path. So students can jump really quickly into the start of one of these units, which we'll do in 1 second. But they also have this library up here. So when they click into the library, students can get to the beginning of any of those units, just like we saw on the home page. So if you guys are in physical science, they can click physical science and then they can choose what lesson, and it shows kind of some of the pages that go along with them, followed by the virtual labs, which are new to MindTap. That's a great additional feature. And then at the very end, you have this gallery, which kind of collects a lot of the different pictures that you're going through in that unit. So this is a nice place if you say to students, okay, click into your library and let's go into patterns of motion. They can jump right to that section. And then it even drills down more where they can jump into stories in science, which we feature. They can jump to think like a scientist. So they can get into whatever page you're asking them to go. So I just clicked into patterns of motion. So what I love when you get into the student book, and this is why I recommend you as teachers showing the student book, because it has all of these great features built right in. So first of all, you'll notice that on the page, and I'm sorry, I'm moving your faces around here. On the page, if you have a vocabulary word, you can click into that vocabulary word. It's going to give you the definition on the page. You'll have the audio links. So the audio is built right in the page, which I'll play in a minute. You also might have some different little icons. So this is a little eye. It's really just giving me info on what the picture is showing me. So it's showing me the motion of a swing. And then you also might have little like video snippets that are built in. So I can click on this little video. This is just showing me how this works back and forth. It's 6 seconds long. So we have longer videos built into the program, but just so you know, you might see a really short one, just kind of demonstrating something on the page. And last but not least, you have your wrap it up questions. If you click into the wrap it up section, these are the same questions that come at the end of each lesson, right? So this one just says 1. All of these questions are aligned to a reading skill or strategy. So this one says contrast. And you'll notice when I highlight something, I'm just highlighting it with my cursor. I can choose what color I want to highlight that. So I'll make this a little bit bigger for you. So students can do that as well. So something that wasn't live in the previous version, students can highlight, teachers can highlight, and you can also put notes in. So if I'm a teacher and I'm showing the student edition and I think, you know what, this would be a great place for me to talk about, you know, something I just read. You can click into the notes on the left-hand side. I can click add note, and then I'll call this wrap it up and make sure to discuss that article I just read and click save. Now that note is saved in there for you as a teacher to go back to, and students can also put their own notes in. So those will stay in there until you get rid of them or edit them. Those are there for you. You'll also notice on the page, there's a standards button on the left-hand side. So this program is fully aligned to the next generation science standards. If I click into that standard button, it shows me what we're covering here. Okay, so we're covering, you know, a performance expectation. You might have a disciplinary core idea. You're going to see all of that show up in your standards on the left-hand side. Students can see that as well, because we want students to know what we're covering and they can access that at any time. Under this little more button, we're going to talk a little bit more about these share and add assignment buttons as we go, because there's another way to assign things to students than just being in the student book. Some of your wrap it up questions too, I'm going to try to find one. Some of them will have a little next button, and it'll be some kind of like interactive activity that you can do with your students or that students can do on their own. So I'll try to find one as we kind of explore through the book. So I mentioned we'll come back to the audio. So I do just want to play a little snippet of the audio to show you some customization options that you and the students have. So if I click into this audio.
Patterns of motion. Press to play audio. Some motion is hard to predict. For instance,
so you guys can see this. This is a read speak, right? So it's not going to be perfect. I always like to, mention that. But what's really nice about having a read speak built in is that there's a little settings wheel in your little audio bar, and it allows for so much customization that you can do, that each student can do. So when students come into their student book, if they need words or sentences highlighted in certain colors, maybe they have visual processing issues and it needs to show a certain way to them, they can come in here and start changing those pieces. So I can make my words green, my sentence highlighting yellow, my text I can change to a different color. I can turn this enhanced text visibility on. What that means is that when I play the audio, the text is going to pop out nice and big so I can see it clear. Okay. There's also an option to slow down the speed or speed it up. So again, students can really be in control of how they need to digest this content when they get into their student book. So that little wheel is going to pop up when you click that audio button. Okay, so I'm going to page to the next page. You'll see these little arrows at the right and left. I can page through. And you'll also notice with our investigate activities, I like how these are broken up in the book because I can click through step by step. And it's exactly what you have in the print book, but it just kind of breaks it down a little bit by step. And then again, you have this wrap it up section at the bottom. Students are documenting their responses in their science notebook, okay, whatever that looks like for you guys. And again, those National Geographic explorers are talking to students throughout the unit of how important it is to have a science notebook, how real scientists in the field keep one, etc. Okay, so you might see some of these investigate activities. And then as I scroll through to the next page, we might get into a stories in science. So I love these. This is Math Girl. Sophia's struggle has helped girls and women achieve their dreams. Again, if I click and wrap it up, I'm going to find one that has a little next button to show you one of those interactive activities. Okay, so students would go through this way. Again, if they need to jump quickly into the library and kind of look at all of the options again, they can click this home screen at the very top. There's a little house and the little National Geographic window. They can click either. Okay, and then jump into the section they need to be in. So if I look at life science, for example, I think this one has some of those wrap it up activities. When I click in here, again, it's going to take me kind of to that beginning. And the great thing about this program too is that every lesson for the most part is a 2-page spread in the print. So when you get here, this is one lesson. So I know some teachers are like, well, there's not much on there. How am I going to, fill up class time with just this page? That's what the teacher side is for. So on the student side, we really want to just keep them excited, engaged. We want to give them these beautiful visuals to look at as they go through. Okay, so just kind of paging through, I just want to show you, this one's a good one actually. This is talking about life cycles. So when I scroll through here, you might see something like this on the page where it's asking me to click on the arrows, okay, to see the life cycle of a jalapeno pepper plant. And if I click wrap it up, see how there's a little next down here? If I click that next again, there might be some kind of activity where I'm dragging and dropping things into their places. So these are not graded. These are activities that I think could be done whole group, or the students can do them on their own just to get some practice. And when it's wrong, it pops them out until I put them in the right place and then tells me I did great, and I can do that as many times as I want. So in your teacher's edition, it'll say, do the activity, do the digital activity in your Wrap It Up section. It'll point you to where those are. Now, one thing that's really, really important about this platform is this resources tab at the top right. These resources, I always say this, if you remember nothing else of what we talk about today, remember this. The resources for both the teacher and student are going to change depending on where in the book you are. Okay, they appear at point of use. So when I'm in as a student and I'm looking at life cycle of a jalapeno pepper plant, and I click into my resources, I'm gonna see, oh, hold on. I am in a trial account, guys, so mine might look a little bit different than yours. So let me just jump into a different piece here. Let me see, let me go back to my life science. Okay, so when I jumped into this introduction part to the unit, I see these introduction resources, and I can see in here there's a life science letter home. So I don't know if you guys have seen the letters home. These I think are really great. They kind of kick off the unit or the strand, and it talks about, with your family, what are we going to cover? Here are the science concepts and practices that we're going to cover. What's some kind of sharing and learning activity that you can do with the student and the family? So these will show up again because I was kind of in a unit kickoff. Those are showing up in my unit resources when I clicked resources. But I'm actually going to jump back into the teacher side, because the teacher side, you'll have more resources, and that's where you can assign things to your students. So just so you know, when you launch the student edition, you've just opened a new tab. Okay, so you'll see here, this says student. If I jump back into, it says MTS, Mind Tap. Now I'm back kind of seeing my teacher view. So you could always kind of jump back and forth if you want to show the student edition and then you want to view your teacher side. You have both of them open side by side. So when I click into my teacher view, on my left-hand side, I have my table of contents. So this is showing me just like what we saw on the student page, right? We have our welcome, nature of science, each strand or each unit, more to explore, and then there's the video library on the bottom. I am going to kind of go backwards. I'm going to click into this video library because I do want to show you that as you scroll down, this is kind of going over the different videos that are available in this grade level. So this is just giving an example of what kind of videos we have access to. Here's the life cycle of a frog. I really like this one. You can preview them here, and I'll just show a little snippet of it.
Life cycle of a frog. Objective: describe the stages in the life cycle of a frog. Frogs are amphibians. They spend part of their life cycles underwater and part of their life cycles on land. Frogs begin their life cycles in the water. The female frog releases thousands of eggs in the water.
So just to give you guys an idea, right? So I turned on the closed captioning. This video is about 3 minutes long. There's also the transcript that I can get below if I need it. So when I look at this video, here's the transcript down here. So I like the video library, again, at the very bottom of your table of contents because it's a quick way to jump into the different pieces. And you'll also see videos that kind of introduce National Geographic explorers. So here's one when we're introducing traits and life science. Here's one that features Lucy Cook. She's one of our Nat Geo explorers. Okay, so here's kind of where all the videos are located. And these kind of introduction videos like this one on changing environments and fossils, they really tie it back into that big question. Again, 3 to 4 minutes long typically, but they're all located down here. But let's go into an actual unit. So again, I'm looking in the teacher. So think of this table of contents on the left as my teacher's edition. I'm going to click into life science. And at the very top of the unit, I see my unit 2 planning guide. Okay. This, again, this is exactly what you have in your print teacher's guide. So I have my planning guide here, which kind of talks about building on prior learning, selecting an anchoring phenomenon, how to plan in advance, Assessment resources, they're going to mention these assessment resources. Summative assessment as well, and then our 3D instructional progression. So this really kind of gives you all of the info for planning for that unit. If I click into my resources up top, again, as a teacher, I can see general resources for the whole book and Life Science Unit 2 resources. So if I click into general resources, just to show you guys what you have available to you, you have the whole assessment handbook built right in here. Think of your resources as printable versions of things. Okay, so I have the whole printable assessment handbook that I can click into right from here. You'll see that this is a lot of pages, 105 pages. This is the whole assessment handbook. So you can download this if you need to save it to your device and not have to find it again. That's located as part of your general resources. You also have graphic organizers, you have the Science Notebook Companion. All of these are built into your general resources. Okay, so any of these can be downloaded and saved and kept on your own device. Now I'm going to go back one because I want to make sure I'm still in this unit, and I'm going to click into my unit resources. So just like we saw in the student edition, here's my life science letter home. Okay, so I can also access it as a teacher. I have phenomena notes, pre-assessment activities, an opening activity. There's checkpoint quizzes, a unit test, and a unit performance task. So all of these are built in here. So for example, a lot of teachers love these phenomena notes. I'm just going to open it and show you what they are. These will actually show, if there's something, let me make this a little bit bigger. Little navigation tip, if you click your table of contents button again, it takes that away and makes this piece just a little bit more centered. But this talks about, the unit planning guide. It gives me some different opportunities to revisit the anchoring phenomenon, gives me some additional, suggestions and instructions for how to revisit that phenomenon. And as I scroll to the next page, there's links of other places to go to. So for example, when we start and when we do our investigate life cycles, it might mention a photo of an axolotl, which I recently learned. You can click into that photo right here and have the photo available for you that you can pull up quickly to show the students. And again, that just opened a new tab. So exploring science kind of opens tabs so that you can quickly get back to where you were. So I do like to point that out for the unit. You have a lot of those resources built in. Now, if you want to assign something to your students for them to take digitally, this little menu bar at the top right, again, is one of your best friends. So if I click into that menu bar, I can click down into assignments. This is where you can really assign specific pages from the book, meaning that your students will log in and they're going to see on the right-hand side of their screen. So if I jump into the student view for a minute, just to show you what the students would see. See how on the right-hand side, I can see current assignments? That's because me as a teacher, I've assigned these to my students. I've assigned them a virtual lab, and I've assigned them 2 different assessments to take. Okay, so on the teacher side, I can scroll down. If it has pages next to it, it means that I can assign, that's a reading selection. So I can assign a reading selection to my students so they can click the link and jump right into that reading selection, right to that page. And as I scroll down, you'll notice towards the bottom, there's a virtual lab, or the bottom of that unit, I should say. And then there's all of these unit assessments. Okay, so these, if it's an assessment, that's going to be graded for you. You're going to get the results from the student. If there's anything you need to manually grade, you'll see a pencil in your grade book, which I'll show you. And you can come in and preview any of these. So if you come in and look and you say, okay, we're working on patterns of motion and predictions. Let me come in. I'm going to click on this as a teacher because I want to see what this assessment looks like. So I can click on question 1. This is exactly what my students are going to see. Here's a question. They can click on the audio. They click the answer. They click submit, and then they're moved on to the next one. So I like that it takes them question by question as they go through. Okay, so you can preview this. And then if you're like, you know what, this looks good. I think I want to assign this to my students. At the very top, there's a blue assign box. I can click assign, and then you guys will see all of your students listed out here. So first you have to choose which student or students you want to assign this assessment to. So I have one student in my class, so I'm going to choose that student. I'm going to give it a start date, which will be today. I'm going to give it a due date, which is going to be the end of this month. You can change the time as well. I'm going to select a category. That's really just how it's going in my grade book. So I can keep it a quiz. I can mark it as a reading or a test. I'm going to keep it a quiz. And then how many attempts do they get? Well, this is a quiz, but I'm going to give them 2 attempts so that if, they really struggle, they have another chance to try it. Okay, so I choose my parameters. Once it's due, the student will not see it on their dashboard anymore. They won't be able to submit it. So I click submit. And now that 3rd grade student is going to see this assessment on their homepage. So that's one way to assign. Another way to assign is when you're looking at this assessment, there's a share button. If you click the share, this has a direct link to Google Classroom. So if I want to put an assessment into Google Classroom, I would click this little green box. It's going to ask me to choose my Google class. Okay, so here's mine. Choose an action. We're going to create an assignment around this. Click go. I can put instructions. Please take this quiz and click assign. So what's going to happen is, I posted it to my class. Students are still going to be prompted to log in because it still is in our platform. But once they do, they'll be taken directly to that assessment. Okay, so that whether you want to assign it the way I did at first, where I clicked assign and it posted it to my dashboard in MindTap, that's one way. Or you can click share and it's going to post it directly into your Google class. So it's really up to you guys. Okay. All right, I'm going to jump back into my menu and my assignments. And I just happened to look at Janelle and her dog sniffing her, which is very cute. I always like to look around. I see pets and kids. And all right, so I'm back into my assignments. Again, same thing if you guys wanted to assign one of the readings, but what I'm actually going to do is scroll down and show you one of our virtual labs. So here's our virtual lab on marble collisions. Okay, again, if you want to preview any of this as a teacher, you can click in here. Here's one way to get to it. And these virtual labs, if you guys haven't had a chance to play around with them yet, they're really, really cool. It gives students a chance to, take some digitally kind of practice hands-on science activities that are available digitally. So when I come in here, it kind of gives me directions. You'll investigate the effects of unbalanced forces by shooting marbles into a basket. I click next. Then it's going to tell me for each trial, you'll use the spring to shoot a green marble at a red marble. You can choose the amount of force for each shot, and that arrow is not me. It's showing me how to do it. So as I click through the next piece, it's going to show me how it's selecting the size. So now it's selecting small and a small red marble, and you can see them show up on the table. I click next. Then it tells me once I've made my selections, it's going to have me shoot, and you can see it pulls it back and shoots it into the basket. So that welcome piece is really walking me through. I'm just clicking the arrows and it's showing me what it's doing. So then if I click explore, now I get to select. So select the spring force, the size, see how many baskets you can make in 10 attempts. So I'm going to choose a high spring force. I'm going to choose a big green marble. This is me doing it now, a small green marble, and I'm going to shoot. And what do we think is going to happen? Way too hard, right? Way too much force. So it tells me you overshot the basket. The green marble struck the red marble with such force, it flew right out of the picture. So let's reset and try again. So now I can adjust and keep trying till I get that right. Okay, and it even gives me different clues. Remember where the red marble ended up. The basket may be in a different spot next time because the basket moves as well when I reset. So these virtual labs are really, really fun. It's cool to do as a whole group instruction, whether you're virtual or in person, or students have access to these to do on their own as well. Again, you can assign these. So if you really want students to focus on this marble collision activity, you can share to Google Classroom, or if I come back into my assignment view, I can assign this actual activity. And you can assign more than one at once. Okay, so I can choose, here's my virtual lab, here's an assessment. I also want to scroll up here and assign a reading activity. I can check the little boxes next to them and then click assign and assign them all at once. All right, let me pause here before I show kind of a different, some more resources as a teacher, and also I'll show you what the K1 and 2 students see when they log in. But any questions on what we've seen so far, the student view, how to assign things, resources, anything that we've looked at so far? And you can put them in the chat, or you can unmute and speak up. I'm fine with any way. Or just comments, how we're feeling about it.
Is there any way, I think kindergarten does kindergarten have a different view? I know kindergarten teachers were kind of struggling with their end of things. Is there some way you can kind of show that piece?
Yes, I can. So the K1 and 2, and of course it logged me out. Hold on one second. The K1 and 2 student side looks different. Yep, and I'm going to show this right now. Let me just come back in here. Close all my tabs. There we go. And I did see a chat come up too. Okay, so the standards, do we have your state version available? I think I saw Jerry pop on. I can answer that in the book, when you click standards, it's just going to be the next generation science standards. Jerry, do you know if there's a state correlation to this that we have done already?
Hey, I found the unmute button. Yes, we definitely do. And I'm I'm going to put my email in the chat, you guys, and I can send them directly to you. You know, you can get every grade if you want. It's kind of a lot, or if you just, you know, Janelle, if you just tell me what grade you want to, I can send that out. But absolutely have one for the state of Minnesota to our program.
Thanks, Jerry. Yes, I live in Pennsylvania, so I didn't want to answer incorrectly, but I can say that the ones you're seeing built in on the page are just the next gen science standards, right? The kind of general NGSS ones. But for Minnesota, yes, sounds like we have the correlations done, so he can share those with you, which is awesome. So I did jump into kindergarten. Okay, so again, remember when you first come in, you're looking at the teacher view. So I can see there's a little bit less for me as a teacher. I'm seeing Let's Do Science is my first unit with my planning guide, kind of walking through each individual piece. Then I have my units 1, 2, and 3, and then my video library. Okay, so if I click into unit 1, the teacher side of things is going to look very similar. So I have my planning guide and then kind of walks through the different pages of the text. I can also jump into a certain unit here and walk through this way, because it's, again, teacher side, very similar. The student side is different. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to launch the student edition. I'm going to go back up to my menu, click launch student edition. And now you can see right away, remember at the beginning of this, I said that for K1 and 2, yes, thank you, just checking the chat. Thanks, Jerry. For K1 and 2, this is the interface the kids have. So remember I said it's a little bit more colorful, it's a little bit bigger of icons. This is what the kinder kids see, and 1 and 2 is very similar. So what I like about this is because these 4 icons at the top are very color coded, you could say to students, you know, whether they're on, I think you guys were using iPads, whatever devices are being used, you could say, okay, guys, let's click into our green button and they'll go right to the library. Okay, so on their home screen, which is my blue button up here, they can also jump into the beginning of that book. So kindergarten has the big books, right? So if I click into life science, for example, as a student, this is my life science big book. It just is smaller because it's the digital version. So students can come in here. Again, they have these nice big arrows on the right and left they can click into to get to the next pages. But you will notice that in terms of what they have, like on the page, they can still click into the vocabulary and get the definition. They can click on the little eyes and get the description of the pictures. They can click into wrap it up and get that question, name 2 living things. They still have their audio built in.
Living.
Okay, so everything that's on the page for the grades is the same for kindergarten as well. They also still have bookmarks and notes. Now, again, notes, maybe not for kindergarten, right? But they could click bookmarks and click this blue add bookmark link. It just saves that page. So if I want to come back into this living things page, it's now bookmarked that page for me. If I click into more, again, because I'm viewing it as a teacher, I have the options to share this directly. So just like what we saw in the assignments tab, if I'm in the student book as a teacher, right, I can click into the share and share this student book page right into my Google Classroom. So multiple ways to do the same thing. Okay, you can.
Okay,
yep.
Just a quick thing. So K12 does Seesaw. They do not do Google Classroom.
Okay. Is Seesaw a learning management system?
I think Julie, I know I saw Sarah on here. Alyssa, do you guys want to share to what you guys see on your end? Because we don't use Seesaw.
I'm guessing that we would just copy the link.
That's what I'm
and
thinking.
Paste it into Seesaw.
That's exactly what I was thinking. So yep, you have this Google Classroom button, but you also have a link directly to it. So you can just copy this link and put it anywhere. So I don't know Seesaw, but if you can put a link into it, that's the direction I would recommend. And I keep hearing Seesaw, so it must be getting bigger and bigger. I keep hearing about it.
Where was that share? How did you do the share button on that?
Yep, so I'll show you 2 different places. So when you're in the student book, there's a little more option, and it's still the share button. You just won't pick the green Google Classroom one, you'll copy this link.
Okay.
Or I'm gonna show you the different way. So remember, I've launched the student edition, so I'm just gonna click back into my teacher tab, and I'm gonna go into my menu and assignments. So it really depends on you, whatever your preference is. I'm gonna go into my assignments, but let's say that here, I want my students to go right into living things on pages 8 to 9. I can click into that link, and then here, sorry, I gotta move you guys around more. That's if I want to, I'm previewing what this looks like. And then again, I can click share. Same thing. Google Classroom, here's the link I need. So 2 different ways. You can do it from your assignments tab, or if you're in the student book, you can just click more and then share right from there. Okay. The other things for K1 and 2 that are just look a little bit different is, again, you have your resources, but they look just different up here. Again, if there's no specific resources for this page, nothing will show up there. You'll usually see some resources for like investigate activities. And this is cool too. Like you might see this little video on the screen. Again, a short little snippet of how this plant is growing. I just love seeing this, very National Geographic-y, right? Here's a quick little snippet of that plant growing. Okay. But when you get to some of the investigate, so let me find one for you guys. Again, you might see some little things where I can press to open the gallery, play this little video. Sorry, I get distracted by the animals and the fun little videos we have. As I scroll through, okay, so again, I'm looking at the student edition, so it's got all the great pictures and pieces. Think like a science. Even at the kindergarten level, this is what I love about this program. Even at the kindergarten level, we're asking them to think like scientists. We're asking them to think You know, think like an engineer. We're showing them science careers of real people and all the cool stuff they do. So I always like to point those out. You'll see those kinds of lessons built in everywhere. And I'm just scrolling through. So here's an investigate activity, for example. And in my resources, I do have a resource for that investigate activity. So if I click into that, there's a rubric that goes along with this investigate activity. And here's my rubric. And I love the student rubrics because it'll say, you know, can you use your observations of bird nests to design your own nest? Yes or not yet. Again, any of these things can be downloaded. If you're using Seesaw, once again, if you can upload something into Seesaw, you could download this and put this in your Google Classroom. Like these are all just, you know, worksheets that you can use because you have this program. So you can use them in whatever format and whatever way you see fit. Now on the teacher side, just again, when I click back into the teacher side, your resources are, you know, you'll have a lot more than the student. So for example, again, I'm in kindergarten. If I go into life science, I go into my unit planning guide. And I do just want to show when you get into a lesson, so here's my plants are living things lesson. When I come in as a teacher, you guys, I'm sure know this. So if I'm repeating things, I apologize, but I get excited. Every lesson that you have is going to follow the 5E model, right? Engage, explore, explain, elaborate, evaluate. Remember I mentioned on the student side, especially like kindergarten, first grade, you might just see a beautiful picture with barely any words on that page. This is where the depth of, you know, going through that lesson with the students lives. So here as a teacher, I'm engaging the students. So I have specific questions I can ask them. Are plants living? Have them think about this. Use the video, the one I just showed, the time-lapse video of a plant growing. Turn and talk, have them turn to a partner. If you're on Zoom, you can put them in breakout rooms. So have them kind of walk through that. You also get possible answers. Tap into prior knowledge. So lots of pieces in the engage. Then you're in explore. Let's preview the lesson. Here are some specific questions to ask. As you get into, and here's the video that we're going to watch. So remember that video library, that's a great place to find what video you're looking at. And you'll see too in your resources menu, it's going to tell you, you know, here's the video that you're looking for. Okay, here's my video, Alizé Carrère. She does a video on plants. Then as I explain, okay, here's how I'm explaining what plants need, walking through, etc. I'm not going through the whole thing, but just to show you guys, there's so much depth built into each lesson. And then as I elaborate's a really cool piece because this is usually like extension activities, what else I can use with my students to get them to understand this concept. And then finally, I get to evaluate, which is always your wrap it up questions. So like I mentioned, if there's a little activity in wrap it up, it'll mention it here and say, you know, also go through the digital assessment in the wrap it up section. And you also, for every single lesson, you have this strategies button. This is your differentiation. So if you click into strategies, depending on the lesson, you might get some different options. So here are some science background on a botanist. You have specific ELL support for your starting, developing, and bridging students. And then you also have a literacy connection. So, you know, as you guys are K-5 teachers, we're also always trying to teach reading and skills and strategies. Here's a great literacy connection. We're working on identifying the main topic. Again, with specific questions and then possible answers the students might give. So if you're a teacher and you want to make sure, like I mentioned before, you want to highlight this, you can highlight it, you can put a note in. So even in your teacher's edition, you can put notes, highlights, bookmarks. And one other piece that I should mention too, maybe as the students get up in grades, students all have, if I jump back into the student side, students have this study hub tool. This study hub tool is collecting any of the notes and highlights that the students have taken. So this, remember, I'm in as a kindergarten student. I haven't taken any notes or highlights yet, but that third grade student, when they come in, they'll see, here's my notes. It has the date stamp. They can print it out. So if you get to the end of a unit, you can say, all right, class, go into your study hub. Let's look at the notes you've taken and the highlights. Let's look at any of the pages you've bookmarked. So here's the page I bookmarked. They can find all of that in their study hub tool. All right, let me pause again for questions because we looked at the kindergarten student side, which looks exactly the same as first and second grade. We looked at the 3 through 5 student side. We talked about the resources. We talked about assignments. What else can I help answer for you guys? And Jerry, if you want to reference that list of questions, I think I covered them all, but if I didn't, I'm happy to cover other ones.
I have a question just for the lessons in general. Like, how long would you say you would spend on, maybe you've talked about that already, I don't know, but how long would you spend on just, you know, I know there's different age levels and different depths of things, but I don't know. I'm just curious, I guess.
Yep. So I did not talk about that. And that's a great question. So the time gets higher, the higher in grades you are. I'm going to give you ballpark because I cannot remember our exact specifications for each. But I think for kindergarten, we're kind of assuming like a 20-minute lesson. And then it builds from there. So by the time you get to 5th grade, we do have some that we're looking at 45 minutes. Now, what I will say too, is some lessons are going to take longer than others. For example, when you get to a think like a scientist, think like an engineer, those could take a week. Those could take multiple days. So just know when you get to those, because a lot of times we're asking students to design their own experiments, to build things, to, you know, to really get involved. Those could take like a week or multiple days. I'm trying to remember if in our planning guide, I don't think it gives times, but let me take a look at this and see if we have any specific times in here. I do know we have some pacing guides that I can share with you guys, but let me see if any of these give the times in them.
Yeah, I don't think we time stamp those, Sarah, from what I have recalled.
I will say the investigate activities, we do have estimated time to complete it. So let me find one in here. Here's an investigate. Excuse me. And as you scroll down, let me see if this one gives one. A lot of times the investigates will have, you know, like, here's about how long this is going to take. Here's some setup you can do in advance. This one doesn't, but sometimes those will give the times that it's like the estimated time it'll take for students. But I can see if we have, like, I remember at some point I thought I saw some pacing guides, but I'll see if I can get some more information on that for you guys from our content team.
Sarah, I was just wondering, and you can let me know your thoughts on this. You know, that second grade demonstration that you created with Mark?
Yes.
Would that be something that could be helpful for our K1 and 2 teachers while they're remote?
Yeah, I think so. Absolutely. So
do we share that with them?
Yeah. So just to give you guys some background, with our product marketing manager, Mark Hoffman, he and I did kind of a session on what would a lesson or what would a couple lessons of exploring science look like in the classroom. And we basically demo a lesson. I think the whole thing is like 45 minutes to an hour, but we did it internally and then we redid a version to share with everybody. So we can definitely share that out. It just kind of helps showing like how we navigate in MindTap, how we're kind of using, like I showed you guys the phenomena notes, how we're using all those resources as we're conducting a lesson. So that's a great idea, Jerry. I will share that.
Okay, thanks. Because I think there could be some good ideas gleaned off of that as well. So yep. Perfect.
That's a great idea. And I was seeing in here if we had any specific pacing guides, but I will check into that for you guys. What else? How are we feeling? You can use your Zoom. I see some, I don't know. You can use your Zoom reaction. You can give me thumbs up, middle, down. Like, do we feel better? Do we feel, I don't know, share with me your emotions here. I know it's kind of a crazy week too for how we're feeling emotionally, but. I'm looking. Oh, I see a pet. Thumbs up. Thank you, Ms. Bazovsky. Hopefully I said that right. Thank you. Thank you. I'm seeing some thumbs up. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, guys. Yeah, I mean, you know, my goal here was to kind of say, here's how great MindTap is. Here's how you can assign things to your students digitally. This has all of the resources built in that you need. Remember, I said, if you can't find a resource, you want to make sure you're in that part. So for example, when I'm in as a teacher and I'm trying to find a resource on this science career, and I click into my resources and I'm not seeing it because I'm not in that lesson. You have to make sure you're in that lesson to see the resources that are tied to it. All right. What else? Jerry, what else did I forget here?
I can't think of anything.
I would just say too, you know, like I showed in the beginning, a lot of times we would have the teacher's edition open side by side with the student, the student book. So again, if you ever need to launch the student edition, you go to your menu, click down here to launch student edition. Oh, one last thing I can show, the grade book. So just so you guys see, actually I have nothing in kindergarten. Let me switch back to third grade for a minute. Just so you guys know, like I said, you're getting all of this data coming back to you. So when I'm in as a teacher, come back in here, and I go to third grade because I did assign some things to my third grade students and the third grade student took it. So when I launched my third grade course and click into my grade book, okay, so again, in my menu, scroll down to grade book. This is going to show me all of the activities that I've assigned. So I've assigned some readings, virtual lab. I've assigned, as I scroll across, here's an assessment. If it has a pencil, there's something in it you need to grade. So when you click on that pencil, you'll see right away, it'll take you automatically to the question you need to grade. Excuse me. And it'll say, here's their answer. Here's feedback that the students can see once I've kind of put the score, and I can say, okay, I'm going to give them a 1 out of 1. Their comment is great job. And it'll give that grade for the student. So anything you need to grade will show up with a little pencil. Anything that's graded automatically, like this one, 70%, I can click into that and I can see exactly how they did. So this student, I gave them 2 attempts. They've done 1 attempt. I can come in and view that attempt and see how they did on each question. So this one they got wrong. So I can come into that question and say, okay, what was going on here? Which of the following does every force have? They got this wrong. So I might come in and put a comment, you know, please try again. And then they can go in and do their second attempt. So you're really seeing exactly how every student's doing on everything that's gradable and assigned to them. So you're going to get a lot of data from that grade book. So always remember to check in your menu button in the grade book.
Sarah, can you just speak a little bit to the course customization? It's my understanding that, like, let's just say we have a YouTube video that we've shown with science in the past that we really, really liked, that this is a place where we can store that.
Absolutely. Yep. So when you click again in your menu button, course customization. So when I'm in here, this is really showing me like the whole layout of the course. And then you can add a folder or add a link. So just like I think it was Leanne was saying, you can add a link to that YouTube video. I click add link. We're going to call it great video. I can give an explanation, text to display, click here, and then I can put the URL. So again, for this, I'll just put youtube.com. Has to be like the exact URL. I click save. And now that link is here. Okay, so you can choose if you wanted to like move this around, you know, put it in a different place in the course. Like I'm just dragging things around, but here's that great video. So students are going to see it in their MindTap. So once I put that in, I click publish. It just says, hold on, we're publishing the changes to my students' course view, and now the students are going to see that. So you can really add any links from anywhere. You know, if it's like a little science activity that's on a website, you can add that link right into the learning path. Great question. And you could even put your own folder. So if I wanted to put all of my, you know, links in my own folder, you can add a folder called, you know, Miss Sarah's resources. And then I could put in, you know, I could put that video in that section. Okay. And I keep putting it, there we go. So there's my video.
I think another thing to point out, especially since we're distance learning, is the usage report.
Yep. So again, kind of like the grade book. Remember I said the menu bar is going to be your best friend. So here's my grade book. So reports, when you come into the usage report, this is going to tell me all of my students, how much time total they've spent logged in, how much time on content, and when they last logged in. So I can drill into that student specifically and see exactly where they were, when's the last time they viewed it, how much time they spent on it, and kind of compared to the class average. So this is the only student in my class. So obviously the time on content is going to match the class average for that. You can also download this as a CSV file. So, you know, this is great to kind of show, you know, if you're meeting with their parents, or you just want to, you know, the student says, you know, I spent so long in here last night, and you can come in and say, actually, you barely spent any time. So you'll see all of that in their usage report. And you'll see that, again, I have one student, but you'll see that building as your students go in and start accessing different areas. Great. Great questions. Anything else, guys? I can't believe it's getting dark already. That time change, at least for me, the time change is, that's a doozy. And just showing you guys too, when I just launched that student edition, kind of what I'm seeing too. Again, remember their assignments that you've assigned will show up on the right-hand side. All of that will be here. All right. Well, like I said before, guys, I recorded this. So what I'll probably do is, because I don't even know if I have everybody's info, I'm going to send this to Jerry, and I'm going to have Jerry distribute it, if that's okay with you, Jerry.
That works great.
There he is. Just so you can have all that. Okay, so you'll have the recording. I'll share the video that we mentioned where we model a lesson, the support sites that I mentioned in the beginning, all of that. So you guys have all of this to access. Reach out to Jerry first with any questions, but he'll pull me in if he needs my help. And, you know, we're here to kind of support you guys transitioning over. So just let us know how we can help you as you continue on in this crazy time. All right, well, thank you guys so much. I hope you have a great evening. It's Friday Eve, so enjoy the last day of your work week tomorrow.
All right.
All right,
Thank you,
thanks,
Sarah.
guys. Thank you.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Jerry.
Thank you.